Hi, this is Welcome to Self, and I'm your host, Dr. Hayley D. Quinn, the anti-burnout business coach. I'm a speaker, author, former clinical psychologist, and late identified ADHDer. Welcome to Self is a podcast for business owners like you who want success, but not at the cost of your well-being. This is about transforming self and transforming business. I'll be here to remind you that you're human first, and as well as being a business owner, you have different roles in your life that need your attention. And to manage those well, you need to take care of yourself in the best way possible. Here you'll learn about practices that'll help you navigate not just your business, but your non-work life as well. And you'll realise that you're not alone in the ways you struggle. You'll have your curiosity piqued on various topics as I chat with wonderful guests and bring you solo bite-sized episodes. I'm here for service-based business owners and entrepreneurs like you to help you increase your self-care and compassion, change your relationship with yourself and your business, and elevate your business to a new level so you can live the full and meaningful life you desire. This is a place of nourishment, growth, and helpful information. A place where you can learn ways to assist you and your business to thrive. We'll talk all things mindset, strategy, and well-being, and I'm so excited you're here. If you haven't already, go and hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode. And this week, I'm bringing you a conversation with another inspiring guest. I had the pleasure of hearing my next guest speak at the Digital Picnic conference earlier this year. And when I found out she had a burnout story, I knew I had to invite her onto the podcast. Just before I introduce my guest, I'm excited to announce that pre-orders are now open for my debut book, From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion, a compassionate guide to creating a thriving life. You can find the link to order in the show notes. Now, let me introduce you to Kim Elizabeth James. Kim is the co-founder of Wedge, a consultancy and tech company helping brands take the anxiety out of knowing when to post on social media. And let's face it, I'm sure most of us have had that anxiety before. Kim has also built a thriving personal brand on TikTok and Instagram, talking to career women on ambition, burnout, business, and the habits in between. Kim is a regular keynote speaker at conferences and workshops across APAC and based in Melbourne. It's my pleasure to welcome Kim onto the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Kim.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
You're so welcome. So before we start talking about burnout, can you give us a little bit of background, a little bit of insight into who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm Kim, as you said. So by day, I am the co-founder of a consulting and tech company called Wedge. Literally met my co-founder through LinkedIn about a year ago. And then 6 months ago, we'd never met in person and figured, wow, we're kind of building the same thing. Why don't we have a go and build a company with someone that, we've never met in person, but that's definitely a very big part of my life right now. I definitely say I'm in a busy work season. But before that, I had been in corporate marketing and also in the tech space. And before that, previously working in senior leadership. I was chief customer officer working with the government in technology. So definitely climbed the corporate ladder and then now building a company of my own.
That's amazing. And I love that you, that sort of spontaneity of like, hey, I've connected with somebody on LinkedIn. Let's start a company. There's a lot of courage in that. I admire that. That's fantastic. So I mentioned in the intro that I'd found out that you did have a burnout story. So can I ask, when did you first realize you were in burnout?
I burnt out in 2021. So it's crazy to even think that this was 4 years ago. It feels like it was another lifetime of a version of me, but then also something very recent. So I burnt out, and I think a key part of why I'm really passionate to talk about it, because there was one book at the library on burnout. There was no conversations. I'd never met anyone else that had. I definitely had a very strong work ethic, but I also realized that it was a lot of my personality and a lot of my self-worth was very tied to being very good at my job as well. And I was in a workplace environment that definitely wasn't what I would ideally want to lead now as having my own company. It's not what the workplace I would have wanted. And yeah, I absolutely lost myself into work, lost myself into having good habits and that outside of work as well. And it went for probably about a year. And then I know the day that it happened, and I was already feeling it, physically. And that then when you feel it physically is because mentally it hadn't caught up. And yeah, it hit the day that I was like, this is the day that I have hit from burnout.
Yeah, wow. Gosh, so many of the things you talk about are so common. And also, my burnout was in 2016. So I really resonate with that. There just weren't conversations or information about it. And at the time, I was working as a psychologist. So I had a lot of shame around, I should know what's going on. I should understand all this. But there weren't conversations.
No.
And that's why I'm so passionate about bringing this information and doing this series on the podcast, because I think there are a lot of people experiencing this and they don't have the language for it. They're not recognizing it. So what were the signs and symptoms looking back that you now realize you had missed or perhaps were minimizing or avoiding?
There was definitely two parts to it. I think the main one was that I had definitely found out that if I was avoiding what it was mentally, it was coming up physically. So like I had a dermatitis on my face that wouldn't go away. I had chronic insomnia. In 1 year, I had slept 5 nights. Like 1 year, I'd slept 5 good nights sleep. So I was just unfortunately chronically insomnia. I had physical pain constantly, and it was actually my physio who had said to me, I remember I went to her on a Monday night and I was just always in pain, and she was like, I can't help you. She's like, I can help you obviously today. She's like, but you need to do something about this because you keep turning up every day and you're so tense in your muscles every single day that you come and we just do a bit and then you come back next week. She's like, you need to take this seriously. Like your body is telling you that you're not taking care of yourself. So it was definitely those physical symptoms of where I was avoiding mentally. But also within that, I had very bad habits. I didn't have boundaries at work. I didn't have boundaries with my personal life. I was taking on projects that I thought that I could fix, but I didn't have the resources or be in the leadership position to fix the problem. So I was just constantly stressed when I couldn't control the environment to fix it. And also then mentally as well, you're aggravated by things. Everything is just gets to a point where it feels numb. And that's where I knew that I had hit burnt out, because I was sitting on my couch and it was a Monday night and I needed to be in the office at like 7 a.m. the next day. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know if I need to. I was literally Googling, like, where is there like somewhere I can go and check in? And I'm like, do I go back up home to Byron and check in somewhere for a week? Like, what do I do? And luckily at the time, my direct manager had gone through something and did experience, so knew what I was going through. She was very able to have the conversation with me. And she was like, you need to take 2 weeks off, like minimum, you need to take it off. We need to stop because we can't move forward. And I knew that it was burnout because I was like, I genuinely can't move forward from here. So we agreed on that. 2 weeks off, got on the next morning, moved everything, was like, here's everything, and just handed it on. And then I just was offline. Went to a doctor and it was like my vitals were impacted. Obviously from not sleeping for so long, that was all completely impacted. And then I remember that day I did a float tank, and that was the first time I'd slept in so long. But that was only the beginning of the journey. That was only the part one when I'd realized this was full-blown burnout. And I took the photos that I share on social now. I didn't have a social presence back then. Like I had private accounts. They were not taken to show anyone. I took those photos of myself and said, I will never get back to this place that I am now. And I never have since.
Yeah. Gosh, I can so relate to that. It's once you've been there, you do not want to go back. Hey. And I think, I love that you've talked about the different sort of domains in your life where it was impacting you and the sort of things that we ignore. And then the body does respond, right? The body holds the stress. The body will keep giving you messages. I sort of talk about it'll start to whisper to you. And if you don't listen, then it'll speak louder and then it'll start yelling at you. And it's like, well, now you're going to pay attention. Then it puts you flat on your back. And I think you make a really good point, because if we get to the point where we're burnt out, changing a few things isn't going to do it. You have to stop. I had to walk away from the business that I had. And the impact of that is huge, not only on the sort of day-to-day stuff, but I think on our identity and how we feel about ourselves as well, right? What do you
Yeah.
think was the biggest impact it had on you?
I didn't think that I could get better. Like, I just was like, is this who I am now? There was just so much that, I missed the version of my previous self and I missed the version that I was. I think a really key thing of this was that I did burnout during lockdown. So, that's why a lot of the things that did make me outside of work were taken away from me. I couldn't see my family because they were interstate. I couldn't go to the gym because they were shut. So all of the little things that made me, I didn't have access to. But I genuinely just remember thinking, this is who I am now. Like, when am I going to feel better? And I would just get really kind of like nervous thinking, do I ever get through this? And a really key part of that was, like, as you said, I stepped away, but I couldn't take 3 or 6 months off. I couldn't quit my job. I wasn't in a financial position to do so. I lived interstate. I couldn't move home with my parents. So I had to take what is the right now for a quick reset. But I'm also extremely type A. So I was like, okay, what is the goalpost? Like, what is the plan moving forward? And I remember there was only one book at the library, one book on burnout. There was nothing else. I'd never met anyone that recovered. And that one book, and I think there was like 2 website articles, said burnout can take 3 to 5 years to recover. And I was like, no, it won't. I'll be done in like a few months. No. I remember, so that was 2021. And I remember I had just come home from a huge work trip in Feb of 2023. And I was like, oh, I'm not burnt out anymore. And it genuinely took me over 2 years to be able to recover.
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest by that because, and again, the reason I'm so passionate about burnout prevention
Yes.
is that recovery costs time, money, energy, resources, all sorts. It's so much easier to put things in place to prevent this than it is to recover from it, and it has such a long-term impact. I'm so glad that you had that moment of realizing. I had that myself as well, and found myself working overseas and kind of wandering around. I was in New York, wandering around Central Park, thinking, oh, how have I gone from the woman that couldn't get off the couch to the woman who's walking around New York waiting to go to an event to speak? And
Yes.
that was a really lovely moment. But I really relate when you were saying about that fear of, is this ever going to be different? Like, is this my life now? It's scary, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's where I say to people, it took 2 years. Like, I had moments 100% within that I felt better. Also within that, it's like I came back from burnout, and then I went for a huge role. I went for my dream role. I got made redundant. I went for the next role. Like, so many big things happened through that. But it was also making sure that I avoided habitual burnout, as you're saying, of like I wasn't falling back into it. And that was the biggest thing, because I think for so many of us, we think a 2-week stint or a long weekend or a good night's sleep is going to cure everything, but we don't build the tools in our tool belt. And I had seen a psychologist 2 years prior for really bad imposter syndrome when I became a manager. So I contacted them, and very thankful that I was able to get in. And I said to her, I clearly have a terrible work ethic, relationship to work. I had a good work ethic, bad relationship to work. And I was like, I'm in my 20s. Like, I have to get my shit sorted. I can't do this for another 40 years. And she helped me. She helped me go, okay, well, what are the boundaries? We identified that there was projects at work that I was trying to fix, and I wasn't in the position or had the resources to fix them. So I was worried about things I couldn't control. I didn't have enough of me outside of work. My identity was tied to the quality of my work and being the best and things like that. So once we improved the way that I responded to work, and also how I kind of like went about that, but then also the habits outside of work that allowed me to switch off. That's where then now, like, right now, it's coming up to Christmas. I run co-founding a tech startup. I'm having to move house. I am literally exhausted, like absolutely exhausted, but I'm not burnt out. And I say that to people, I'm not burnt out because I'm still getting up in the morning and doing my morning routine. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I'm eating good food. I'm seeing friends. If I was burnt out, I would be on the couch, paralyzed, not being able to move forward. I was like, this is not burnout, this is exhaustion. And that's fine, because it's seasons. You don't avoid hard times. You don't avoid stress. You just work out how to manage it better. I think there's that saying that's kind of like, you can't avoid the rain. It's more like how you dance in it, or something like that.
I think that's so important to talk about that with seasons as well, because I think a lot of people fear that if I work with a lot of high achieving people who can have this fear that, but if I'm going to put these things in place, it's going to mean that I'm not achieving like I was. And it's just not true.
No.
Like, this isn't about, we want you to live a life where you're not doing anything. It really is about, how do you set up your life in a way that allows you to do all of the things you want to do in your work, in your personal life. I do a lot of that in the work that I do with people, and I talk a lot about the things you're talking about in the book as well. So I think that's a really important one, is knowing that this is about creating the life you want, which can be full and it can be busy, but it can't be busy all of the time. There's got to be moments where we are resting and replenishing.
Yes.
It's like, I'll say to people, if you go into a factory, the machines do not run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of a year. They stop for maintenance and then they start again. And we have to do the same as well. Was there anything during the lead up to burnout, whilst you were in burnout, or on reflection after your recovery, that really surprised or shocked you about what you'd been through or what you were going through?
I think a lot of it was that I thought that working harder was a sign to ambition. And I was like, you just have to work the hardest. I think this was time of the girl boss era. It was the hustle era. And it was that everyone that I saw online, this was the norm. This is what it's supposed to be. But then I also had been listening to someone that I thought was the absolute pinnacle and that I thought was doing the most talk on a podcast. And she talked about how impacted her health was and how bad of a state her health was. And I was like, oh. And I think that that's where I probably when I was so much in my head and I didn't realize the impact that I was having on others, was when I burnt out and I'd come back and someone had said to me that they had said to the manager, is Kim the expectation of how much we all need to work? And that really upset me because I was like, oh my God, everyone thinks that I'm the standard that everyone needs to work to, but they don't know that I'm broken on the inside. So that's where I think I realized that I had to be able to fix that so that I wasn't pushing out that culture. And then also identifying, I think I like the conversations now that we're in a world where I think we can kind of swing some ways, and now the conversation of burnout, people are scared and we're like, oh, should we be working this hard? Is hustle bad? If you want an extraordinary life or you want extraordinary outcomes, it takes an extraordinarily amount of effort. And it's like, we don't then go and tell Olympians, you shouldn't train that hard and you shouldn't work that hard. But then if it's a woman that's running a business, oh, you shouldn't work that hard. It's like anything that's extraordinary takes extraordinarily amount of output. And I then had to then realize, okay, well, what is that sustainably for me? And how can we have that conversation? Because I really didn't want to be breeding something that other people thought this was the norm when I'm absolutely broken inside.
Yeah, gosh, I imagine that would have been confronting for you. And also, I love that, again, pointing out that this isn't about dimming your light. This isn't about settling for a quiet life, unless that's what you want, and then good on you. This is about, what do you need to be resourced to be able to do the extraordinary things? I've found myself recently in lots of different rooms with remarkable women, people, and we want people out there doing remarkable things, but we have to be well resourced to do it. Otherwise, the price that you'll pay is just so, so high, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So you had talked before about, it took you a good 2 years and you'd seen the psychologist and worked through some things. Can you tell me some of the things that either you did then or you're still doing now that helped you recover and help you stay out of burnout?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that we then think, oh, I just need to take a holiday, or, oh, I just need to get this thing. And you might take a holiday or a break once or twice a year. It's the daily things every single day that become non-negotiables. And I am also neurodivergent. So like for me, I had to then really understand what that looks like. Obviously, working for myself, I can set a lot more of those because I'm in control of my calendar. The negative side of that is I could work 7 days, and I know that that's not okay. So I very, very much so have a very strong routine towards fitness and mental health. For that, it's something that my co-founder and I are very honest about. So I have my me things. I like to box and I love boxing. I think everyone should have a skill and like a hobby that is growing a skill. It's not something that you just do because you have to. The ability to have something where you have to get better at it, but it's not work related. So that is like my absolute me time. I make sure that every morning I don't wake up and touch my phone. I'm very much a no phone in the mornings person, like start your day with you, of your mindset. And then I love to also walk on my treadmill early in the morning. I get like 20 minutes in and I read a fiction book. The reason I read fiction is because my job is trying to be more creative. So I just found that that was really good as well. So I do those ones. And then I have a very clear routine with myself that if I am also starting to get to those points where I'm like, this is not sustainable. Okay, I shouldn't work this weekend. Or, okay, I need to have a weekend in, or go, no, I actually need to be around my people, and kind of like filling up my cups like that. So it's definitely the small little like daily habits that are the biggest things. But it's so funny because I think that we just like right now are striving for like the 1% in health. We're striving for the ice baths. We're striving for the journaling. We're striving for all these other things that are nice to have. And it's like, get enough sleep, get off your phone, eat well, and move. And that's pretty much the majority of what it is. Like, I have a very strict bedtime routine. I literally use a platform called Brick. So I like block my phone, and I make sure that I get out and like exercise with others. And I'm a huge meal prep on a Sunday. I'm like, during the week, I literally am so boring and will eat the same thing every day for lunch and for dinners, because I'm like, as long as it's then done, I'm ready to go. But yeah, I think for me, when you kind of like prepare and put in those little things each day, you just realize when you don't have those as well, that that's just kind of like helped keep me in track, that I can work 7 days sometimes when I need to, and I don't feel like I'm burning out, because I know that on a Saturday I'm only allowed to work till 3:30 because I have to get to yoga for 4.
Yeah, I love that. And you speak to something that I do a lot of work with people, is that really understanding yourself. And I'm also a neurodivergent woman and attract a lot of neurodivergent clients. And I think it's important that we understand ourselves, because a lot of the advice out there is not necessarily designed for neurodivergent people. And if we try and fit into somebody else's prescription of how it should be, whether that's neurotypical advice or neurodivergent advice, if we're trying to fit into somebody else's prescription of how this needs to be, we're setting ourselves up with more challenges and potentially not going to be helpful. It could actually be harmful. So I love that you've got to really know yourself, and you know what you like, and you've got the things in that are your non-negotiables, which I think are really important. And having those things where you have the food prepping, so during the week you've straight away reduced cognitive load.
100%.
So that can be, that time and energy can be put into, your start. I can only imagine what goes on for somebody who's doing a tech startup. I mean, that almost makes my brain explode. I think I can only imagine the sort of stuff that's going on for you.
Yeah.
But I love that you've got these other things in place that take away things that would drain your time and energy, because we can't do it all at the same time. We can do lots of things, but they can't be all at the same time. So if we can find ways to reduce cognitive load, delegate to somebody else, get rid of things we don't need to be doing, and adding in those things, like you said, time with your people, making sure that we're connected socially on whatever level that means for us, is so, so important for that everyday well-being. Like, I start my day with literally checking in with myself. Hey, darling, how did you sleep last night? How are you feeling? What have you got on? And what do you need to be resourced for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, most days I try to as well, but one of my favorite things is I just have like a 5-minute gratitude meditation that I have on an app on my iPad. I've used the same one for like 6 years. I've never done anything other than this one. And it's just like 3 things you're looking forward to today. And sometimes it's so easy that you wake up and you're like, it's cold, the weather's bad. Oh, I've got this thing. Oh, just what are the things that you're really grateful for and looking forward to? And I think that that's where sometimes I get a lot of people say, oh, you're always so happy and you're so like joyful. And I'm like, I have seen the version of just like absolute rock bottom that I'm so happy that I'm not there every day. And it's just like, when you've reached that level where you just are so broken as a human being, you are so happy for it. And I also say to myself right now, and I think also a big part of burnout is it also comes from complete misalignment in your life. Like, I am not burnt out right now because I am exhausted pursuing something that I'm passionate about. Like, I do a lot of keynote speaking, and a few weeks ago I did 2 in one day, which is just not good, but obviously it got to the Thursday and I was so exhausted. And I said to one of my friends, like, I'm exhausted, but I am exhausted because I'm doing what I'm passionate about. And I'm like, that is a privilege, and I'm very happy to do those things as well. So I think so much of it we can just identify and be so grateful for what we have. And sometimes we underestimate how much of an impact that just changing. And I know that can sound like a bit woo-woo, having a positive mindset. But for me, I'm just like, how cool of the life that I have, because I know that this is what younger me wanted as well.
Absolutely. I don't think it's woo-woo at all. And there's plenty of science that will back this up, that
Yeah.
it's far better for your health. Like, we have an inbuilt negativity bias,
Yes.
and we need to practice looking for the good things. And gratitude practice is one of those things that helps retrain our mind to seeing those things in our life that are more positive. And I think you made a really important point. And again, I speak about this in the book about neurodivergent people. When we are, our special interests can be part of our well-being.
Yes.
Getting hyper-focused on something you're really passionate about can actually serve you well rather than burn you out. It's like, I think the misalignment piece is so important, because when we are doing things that either we don't have a lot of autonomy around, or we're feeling resentful about, or we're not enjoying, that's a risk factor for burnout.
Yes.
Whereas if we are super focused on the stuff we're passionate about, again, we still need to be resourced, because if you ended up doing like a 14-hour day for 2 weeks, you're not eating properly, you're not hydrating, you're not speaking to anybody, well, of course you're heading down that road towards burnout again. But having those passion projects are so important for well-being. So I love that you
that's the
mentioned
thing.
that.
Yeah, well, it's sustainable ambition. I think there's two things with it. It's like, I would rather it take longer if I get to enjoy it and don't burn myself in the process. Like, I've always had that, especially now building something of my own and building a company with someone else. Or I also speak it and I post a lot online. I'm not posting right now because I have so much going on. I'm like, something has to give. And I don't want to put out anything to the world that it's just like, I'm not in a place that I can. I'm like, I have so much going on that's not going to be helpful for someone else. So I would rather it take longer if I enjoy it, because like, I think a really key thing as well was that I was constantly proving myself and proving my worth through my work and things like that. You just get stuck on the hedonic treadmill, and you just realize that there will always be the next thing. And it's like, okay, well, you booked this conference. Well, what if it's the next conference? Or you got 50,000 followers? Well, what about if it's 100,000 followers? Or you make the 6 figures, but what about if it's 7 figures? And like, you're never going to get happy from doing all the things. You'll have that initial thing, you have the initial spark where you get excited by it, but then life moves on, and it's more of who you become in the pursuit of that as well. So that's where I think it's really important to have those with yourself for work, but so much is having it, especially if you're neurodivergent, something that's growing a skill, like something that is just, you're learning it, and the ability to get to learn. Like, we just really lose that the older that we get as adults. We think of when we were younger and after school you'd be playing musical instruments, you were doing sporting, you were doing so many things, and we just like let ourselves not do that. So that's why I box. I love to box. I love going and being like, I'm getting stronger, or I'm learning something new. I'm getting faster. Like, that is my learning thing. And then I got very much into fictional reading this year. I actually realized that I really needed to kind of like detox my consumption, and I was consuming too much self-help that you're just like, oh my God, I can't keep helping myself. And a friend of mine who's very creative said, how much fiction do you read? And I was like, I don't read any fiction. She's like, that you need to be reading fiction. And I will read fiction, but my subconscious is then like going like this in a circle. And then I'll like go for a walk one day and the best idea will come out of nowhere. And it's because my brain was allowed to. So I also have a Kobo. So it tells you how many books you've read and how fast. And so that's like my little gamified part.
You're not high achieving at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. It just shows up everywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. Looking back, what would you say has been your biggest lesson?
I think the biggest lesson has definitely been that, probably what I've just said, like, you have time, like you can have it all, but you just can't have it all at once. I right now was actually trying to do something really, really big in my life, like a big life goal at the exact same time as what we're doing with this company. And realized I couldn't do it all at once. And I just said to the people around me, why was I trying to do some of life's biggest things at the same time? Like, then what? I think of people like Billie Eilish and how she reached like 18 or 19 and she had achieved what people spend their whole life striving for and sometimes never achieve. And so she had that, like, now what? So I think that I'm very aware with that with myself. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that sometimes when you heal, you actually feel like you become less ambitious, but it's just because you have to realign for yourself what ambition means to you. Like for so many of us, if we're proving ourselves and proving our worth, we're doing for the external validation of others. But when you're doing it to internally validate you, you think that you're not as ambitious, but you actually are still. And so for me, I am just allowing myself to let it take longer so that I enjoy the path and I don't get burnt out and I can actually remember it, because I'm just like, there's so many things in my life that I've done that I probably don't even remember that I've achieved them because I was just constantly going for the next thing. So that's definitely a huge part of it.
I love that. And gosh, you're so right. I mean, it shifts your perspective. Like anything major in your life, it changes your perspective. And I think, for me, it was certainly about defining what does success mean. And it was that, what does it mean for me? Because I would externalize a lot of, well, I need to do these things to prove I'm good enough. I didn't feel good enough. And I think about, since my burnout, and the things I have done and achieved in my life are far greater than a lot of the things I did previously. But they've been done at a pace that has felt so good and so sustainable and been joyful. And I've really enjoyed the process of them all. So I love that you said that. If you had just one thing to say to the people listening, what would that one thing be?
The people online that look like they have it all figured out and the perfect routine, the perfect life, they absolutely don't. Like that was me in the workplace, where I looked like I was the perfect person with the perfect level of output and I was broken on the inside. I have listened to, podcasts recently of people that I look up to them and I think, oh my God, I'm not doing enough compared to them. And they're like, my health was absolutely broken on the inside. The people that have the 5 a.m. routine and the journaling and everything like that, it's not sustainable. And I think that we just are so much especially comparing ourselves to others and their timeline. And we burn ourselves out, either burn ourselves that we try to do too much to match to those people, or we go out of misalignment of what's best for us, or we don't enjoy the process of it. So that's, I think, the biggest thing. And I think for me, it's funny because then I have people that say to me like, oh my God, but you move so fast, you're doing so much. And I probably am doing a lot right now that like people see, but it's just a lot because it's in alignment. So I really enjoy it. But if you told me this like 4 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, like nothing's working. It's taking too long. So I think that's a really key part of it. Is there's definitely the part of burnout and what we talked about, our relationship to work, but burning ourselves out to meet someone else's expectations. You don't know how much are they completely, are they not seeing their friends and family? Are they working 14-hour days and not doing the things for them? Are they got chronic insomnia and all that kind of stuff? So really it's just like, who are you compared to the previous version? I think now that we're, closing another second year, and this is my second year of working for myself, and I'm like, are we where we want to be in the tech business yet? Absolutely not. We've so much more to go. And every week I think that we're like, this is the thing. It's not the thing. It's the biggest roller coaster you've ever been on. But there's just, when I can sit back and think of how different I am of a person now compared to last year, it's just phenomenal. And I only got there by just kind of like having these habits, sticking to it every day, doing the unsexy stuff of getting enough sleep, like checking in with yourself, eating right, and just exercising. And then, identifying am I also burnt out from misalignment of spending my time doing the things that are not fulfilling me, especially if someone neurodivergent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece as well is when we're looking at people online, you don't know what help and support they've got in the background. They could have people taking care of their kids, running their household, doing all the stuff. So we've got to be very careful. But we're social creatures, and we naturally compare ourselves to others, but there will always be people who are doing better than you. There will always be people who are not doing as well as you. There'll be people doing more, people doing less. That's just the nature of the world we live in. So it really is coming back to self, isn't it? And thinking, what do I want? What do I need? What's going to help me and serve me? And that alignment piece, I love that. I work a lot with people around, creating values aligned businesses, because those are the businesses we can make sustainable and enjoyable. Because who wants to work really, really hard and not be enjoying what they're doing? Or not having the health and well-being to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Oh, absolutely. And I say that a lot to people. Yeah, I did a video earlier this year and I said, like, you don't have as many hours in a day as Beyonce, because that's an absolute lie. Beyonce has a chef, Beyonce has a nanny, Beyonce probably has someone that cleans her house. And it was an article and it was talking about how much more single women pay, because if you go on holidays, you then have to pay more because you have a room that still has 2 beds in it, or that you're paying for one internet bill, but it's, for one house, but there's one of you in it. And I was like, it's also the tax on time. I was like, the amount of time for it. But then having said that, like, I've got friends that run businesses and they have kids, and I'm very much like, I can work 7 days a week. I don't have children. Like, I can be 100% selfish into that. So yeah, you're exactly right, of just alignment of what's realistic for you, because you don't know what opportunity someone else has. It's especially like someone tried to give me business advice. It was a man, and he was like, you just need to hustle at this time. You need to work 7 days a week. You have to grind. And I said to him, so while you were doing this, were you married? He's like, yes. And I was like, so she put food on your table, she cleaned your clothes, she looked after your children. I said, no, you got to work 7 days a week because there was a woman doing that for you. So that's a privilege. And I was like, that's not a privilege that I have. I have to spend my Sundays cleaning my house, preparing for the week and washing my clothing and stuff like that. And he was like, oh.
Yeah, but it's a good point. We need to live the life that is our life.
Yeah.
Not try and live the life that is somebody else's, because we don't see everything else that is going on. I've got one more question for you. I ask this to all my guests, and it's my favourite question. If you could meet your 80-year-old self today, what do you think she would say to you?
Oh, she would probably tell me to stop overthinking. Honestly, I'm a massive overthinker. Like, I think that there's definitely where it's something that I do now if I think of my younger self now, but I think that future version of me would be just like, please enjoy it, because these are the times that you're going to look back on and be like, these were the glory years. These are the glory years of the hustle and the grind of building something that doesn't exist, because I really love thinking of that, and I really love thinking of a future version of me, because it's, like how when they say to Richard Branson, a 20-year-old said to him, like, if you had, X amount of money, and he was like, I'd rather be your age than have money, because you can't buy time. So I definitely think she would say, stop overthinking it and just enjoy the journey. I know that I said that I do to others, but I'm definitely someone that's like, oh, time's on my side, not on my side. Let's keep rushing faster. But realistically, probably not.
And, that saying of, if we've got a lot to do, we need to go slowly.
Yeah.
We often get where we need to get quicker when we go slower, and we calm our nervous system. But I love that. And maybe you can keep connecting with your 80-year-old self to remind yourself that you don't need to overthink everything, and you don't need to rush, because this is the process. I was at a conference recently and somebody had said, we'll often say, oh, looking back on the good old days, and we need to remember that these are the good old days, right? It's like you said, these are the glory years. We're living them right now, and these are the memories we're going to be looking back on. So let's make them beautiful. Yeah,
I think I definitely even say that now as well, and I say that to my co-founder. I'm like, these are the times where, we're going to be thinking, oh, it was so difficult back then. We were building this thing that doesn't exist. And right now you just feel like you just have breakdowns and breakthroughs. But I just joke, every time we have a massive breakdown, we have a massive breakthrough. But then when you're older, you just miss those times and just miss the challenge of it. I think that the ability to challenge and create something that doesn't exist.
Oh, Kim, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm so excited for everything that you're creating. And I love that you're doing it in a way that is honouring you and your well-being. I'm so grateful for you sharing your story. I have no doubt that it's going to be really helpful for people.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for tuning in. Another great episode, another great guest, and I'll be back next week. And don't forget, pre-orders are now open for the book, and you'll find the link in the show notes, and I'll put all links for Kim in the show notes as well, so you can go and follow her and find out more about Kim. See you next week. Thanks for sharing this time with me today. I hope it's been helpful and supportive. If there's been something in this episode that you have found helpful, I encourage you to share it with your business besties so they can benefit too. Shares, ratings and reviews really help to increase awareness and reach of the podcast, meaning more people can benefit from the information. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you'd like to know about the ways we can work together, check out my website at drhayleydquinn.com. I'll pop the link in the show notes, and you can also join my mailing list from there and be kept up to date with all that is happening. I do need to say, because legal stuff, this podcast is solely for the purpose of education and entertainment. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for individual advice or advice of health professionals or other qualified professionals. Okay, now we've got that formal stuff out of the way. I love hearing from listeners, so don't be shy. Reach out and let me know your thoughts on the episode or what else you'd like to hear about. I wish you well in your relationship with yourself and your business, and may you go well and go gently. And remember, if you thrive, your business will too.